But that figure could be less this year due to a new eBay boycott. Sellers opposed to eBay's new fee and policy changes have organized a one-week boycott, which began yesterday. Here to find out why the eBay community is so up in arms, we welcome eBay seller and unofficial spokesperson for the boycott, Valerie Lennert. Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning, Alexis.
So explain to us, what's the reason for the boycott? What are the new rules suggesting that you guys don't like?
Well, essentially, eBay announced four primary changes. They're expecting to announce more later in the year, but the first one is they're going to be changing feedback. They're not going to be allowing sellers to leave feedback for buyers on a transaction. The second one is they're introducing something called the best match feature, which will change the way listings are listed on the eBay marketplace. The third is that PayPal is reserving the right to hold all of our money for 21 days against our will in certain situations and will not provide any interest on the money held against our will. And the third is, even though it was marketed as a fee decrease, we're actually experiencing a fee increase. Some sellers are going to experience up to 66% higher fees.
So, you know, I know you mentioned four of the major issues right now related to it. I presume, Valerie, that the issue that is most important to you is the second point which you raised, which is the fact that the rating system of the buyers who are purchasing merchandise from you, if they are not rated, how can you be sure that they are legitimate buyers and that they won't therefore later on go and dispute the charge on their credit card, issues associated like that, right?
That's correct. And the majority of buyers on eBay are wonderful people that want a great deal just as much as I want to sell a great item. But you do have rogue buyers that, if feedback is not going to be accurate, we have no way of knowing. I have no way of trusting a transaction when a buyer comes into it. Buyers are feeling the same way. The other big concern that I have, and it ties right into the feedback, is eBay is going to use the best match feature based on a seller's percentage rate. So if I were to get a negative, for example, my listings would not be displayed normally in the eBay marketplace. They'd be displayed on, say, page 857, whereas a seller who doesn't have a negative feedback is going to be displayed on page 1. So once you receive a ding to your account, it's virtually impossible to recover. We're worried about rogue buyers leaving a ding on purpose. We're also worried about competitors coming in, and
right,
in order to remove my competition, leaving me a negative on purpose.
All right, so explain to me, I understand these sellers have really unified around this because there are thousands and thousands of sellers. What has eBay's initial response been to your concern and your plan to boycott the site?
Well, eBay hasn't responded to me personally. I have noticed that their statements to the media have been changing. Initially, they told us that when we voiced our concern, they told us that we are nothing more than noise. And the CEO told us that eBay was a flea market, and he applied that he was ashamed to be a part of it. Well, the flea market atmosphere is what made eBay what eBay is today. Being able to buy Grandma Susie's figurine that she's had in her basement for 50 years is something that you can't find anywhere else. And
Valerie, just looking at eBay's point of view, and we're going to try to have them on to to answer some of your questions here, but taking their point of view for a moment here, aren't they putting some of these new rules in effect because they need to just make sure that they can control and man the level of flow and the types of people that are getting in there and participating? I mean, they wouldn't want to hurt their own business given the fact that, this is a $6 billion business, right?
Well, one would think so, but essentially we all agree that eBay is broken right now the way that it is, and a lot of buyers are upset because they feel like the feedback is imbalanced. They're worried about receiving negative feedback in retaliation for leaving negative feedback for a seller. But eBay is not dealing with the core issue of ensuring safety on eBay. And instead of what they're doing is they're taking the risk from the buyer and putting it on the seller. So they're not. It's not because becoming a balanced situation. And what we want is we want the eBay executives to work with both sides so that both parties can feel safe in conducting business online.
Valerie, if you suggest, as you just mentioned, that it's broken, look, why are so many people using it, and where else can you go to sell your merchandise? Because one could argue eBay has been a very, very successful model where people like you have made a nice living.
Well, eBay has come out recently. I mean, the reason they're making these changes in the first place is because listings have gone down. There's a downward trend in the number of listings, even more so this week. Over the last 2 weeks since they made the announcements for the changes, it's been huge. But there are tons of other sites, and myself personally, I've been going to Amazon.com. I've opened stores on Etsy.com, eCrater.com. There's plenty of other sites, and I personally will still use eBay after the boycott. Some won't, but there's plenty of other areas to sell online, and sellers are starting to realize that. They're just tired of eBay not listening to our issues.
All right. Well, Valerie Lennert, we thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your point of view, and of course, we are hoping that we can have the company join us tomorrow to give us some of their feedback on this situation. Thanks so much, Valerie, for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
All right. Well.